Hey y'all, welcome back to Chickanic. I hope everybody's having a great day. Let's get out to the shop. I'm about done with all this rain, but I am digging this cool weather today. It's been in the almost 90s, 95. Yeah, I'm ready for it to cool down a bit. So what do we got in the shop today? First off, customer's Cub Cadet Rider. Brought it in thinking that it needed a starter, but it absolutely does not. We can get it to start, but something is wrong with this control group. It does not want to choke every time, so we got to tear it apart and figure out what's going on. Still got the one in the shop from my video diagnosing camshaft failure. We did put a new camshaft in it, but when we had it torn apart, guess what we found? Now, when the customer brought this in, he did state it had a couple issues. Not only did you have to turn the flywheel to its, little honey spot to get it to turn over, but he also said when it was running, it would run away with itself. Now, in my video, I got it to start when I jumped it, but it ran great after that. In fact, I started it a few times, and every time it ran great. So I wasn't sure about the whole running away with itself. And we were going to dig into it anyways because we were 100% positive that it had a camshaft issue. But once we got inside, we found something really odd. We found this. Now, governors go out, and they go out a lot of times when the decompression trigger breaks off of the camshaft because the pieces are all up in there and it gets into the governor and it breaks it. Now, this is your oil slinger right here that rides on your camshaft. But usually when they break, they break. You know it. This one, though, it looks fine. And I knew that it worked. But with closer inspection, if you pull it apart right here, you can see that it's sheared off at a weird angle to where it can actually come up a little bit and just be spinning around like crazy and not work. Or like whenever I had it and I was starting it, it did lock back into place and was working just fine, which that is weird. Now, this happens all the time at the lawnmower shop. A customer will bring a unit in, tell us that it has something wrong with it, it not go wrong while we have it, and there's not much we can do. I posted a video about this on my Facebook letting people know, what happened, and one commenter said, if a customer says it's running away with itself, you just go ahead and change the governor. Well, what if it was something else? It could have been a stuck throttle. It could have been debris stuck in there that just jostled its way out once it got here. But am I going to charge a customer a bunch of labor whenever I'm not really sure if it has an issue or not? I mean, to go into an engine, remove it from the machine, tear it apart, have to change the oil, the crankcase gasket, a seal, just to check to see if the governor's okay? I ain't charging a customer that much labor. I mean, for example, this one. Say it didn't have a camshaft issue and the customer brought it in just saying that it ran away with itself. I go to check it, it runs fine on me. Now, it could have definitely been a stuck throttle. If the problem doesn't happen while I have it, it's really hard to diagnose. And this would have been a real toughie, especially when it worked every single time for me. Because odds and probabilities, this never happens. And removing an engine just to check the governor is a lot of labor. So, let's see what I got going on my bench. Alright, first up on the bench, I have a customer's Husqvarna trimmer. They said that it would start, but would not run. First thing I did, though, without even pulling the spark plug, pulled the rewind. And if I can pull it like that, where it won't bring the unit up. One way to check compression if you do not have a compression tester, which works some of the time. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's something that you can go by. This should be able to hold the unit up and it not fall by itself. So I'm thinking this thing doesn't have any compression. Let's check. Pull out my old trusty Mighty Vac. I leave these in the description box below if you want to get your own. Get this plug out of here. Oh, Lord. I can already tell from this plug. I don't know if you can see it as well as I can. That thing is gray. Super gray. That's not good. Can I see anything? I'm going to lower the piston here. Ooh, that looks really dry. Really dry in there. Oh, Lord. Guys, what do we got there? 60, 70, 80 pounds. That is dead. DED. Now, a lot of times when I check compression in my videos, I get this question asked after I post it, and I don't even think about explaining it while I'm doing it. But when you go to check compression on a two-stroke with a compression tester, if you have less than 100 pounds, it usually has some issue. Either the cylinder and piston's worn out, it needs a whole brand new cylinder and piston, or rings. But 90% of the time, it's never gonna run right. Usually I'm pretty confident working on something if it has 110 pounds or over, and you prefer to see at least 120 pounds. Now there are some backpack blowers and chainsaws that carry a ton of internal compression. Sometimes you'll see 140, 150, 160 pounds of compression, and that's normal too. So that one's dead. Next. Currently diagnosing this Husqvarna 545. And from what I can tell, he said the throttle trigger is broke, but it is definitely not doing anything. It should be moving this down right here. So I don't know yet if it's the cable or some plastic in the trigger itself. I am really not a fan of these designs. Okay, so it pulls a cable through a outside sheath all the way underneath the bottom. You can see that little tube right there. That's where the cable goes into the throttle handle. But we can see from where the cable's supposed to go, it wraps around the bottom of that throttle trigger and up into it. But whenever I go to push it, there's no throttle cable going through that channel. So I don't know if the whole end piece is missing, if it's sucked back up inside or what. I had to tear it apart. Now to get the trigger to come out, it's got a little roll pin right there holding it in, so I've got to tap it out. Got the roll pin out. Alright. How do you come out? Just keep pulling. Hey, there we go. Oh, definitely no throttle cable in there. So yeah, everything looks fine on the trigger itself. The little notch where the end of the throttle cable goes in still looks good, not buggered up at all. So I think it just needs the throttle cables broke. Well, I definitely need a throttle cable. My distributor that I get all my Husqvarna parts from does not have one, of course. And my local Husqvarna dealer does not have one, of course. So I'm gonna have to order one online like everybody else, and the thing is almost $40. That's ridiculous. And another Husqvarna 128 LD. So customer brought this one in saying the fuel lines are rotten and need to be changed out, and in fact probably about 60 to 70% of the ones I get in the shop on these Husqvarna 128 LDs have this same exact issue, which could have been what burnt up that last one. I've actually spoken with Husqvarna corporate, told them that this would be an indestructible machine if they would just fix the fuel line situation, because what happens is once they start rotting out, they will suck that debris up into the carburetor, which will get stuck in your screen, which will make the air fuel mixture not correct. It will burn too lean. Hopefully you catch it before it does any other damage, but it will ruin the diaphragms in your carburetor and eventually could even burn it up. So it's always something to check for. Make sure that your fuel filter is still attached to your fuel line, because other than that, these never have any issues. It's always the fuel lines. So yeah, we look down in here. There are no fuel lines, no fuel filter left at all. So this is the part where the customer brings it in thinking, oh, I just need a couple fuel lines. It can't be more than $4 or $5 for the lines and a little bit of labor. The problem is since it's gotten to this state, it's probably already sucked a bunch of trash up into the carburetor and done some damage to those diaphragms. We're gonna dig in and see. First off, like always, we do not want to be working on a dead machine. So let's check this compression. Give it a couple pulls. Sweet. We've got 120 pounds. This one's good to go. Well, First observation, we are missing an air filter cover. We got a little washer with a screw in here. Oh, you know, whatever works. At least there is an air filter. You don't know how many I take apart, and there is not one even in there. Let's go ahead and take this air filter base off, get this carburetor off. That way we can get to the holes in the tank for the fuel lines and open up this carburetor and see what it looks like inside. Oh yeah, it is hard and broke. While I have this off, I am going to get my flashlight and take a look in here, make sure it's not burned up. Looks brand new though. Take this thing apart. This is the metering diaphragm side. We're just going to see if it's hard or not. Don't know how long this trimmer has been sitting. Also, a viewer sent me this, and I don't know who makes it, and if I can find them, I'm going to leave them in the description box below. This is just weighted perfectly. I want to thank, again, a viewer that sent this to me, because this, I use the stink out of it now. It's very convenient and just feels good. You know, when you got that tool that feels good? Yeah, that's a little crunchy. Let's check this other side. Oh yeah, that diaphragm's all pooched out in there. You can see all this debris down in the bottom of this screen. Yeah, check that out. That's a chunk of goo in there. Oh Lord, it is coming down. Well guys, it is the next day. The rain got so violent that I couldn't film in the shop yesterday. It sounded like a stadium full of 10,000 people stomping their feet above my head. So it's a new day. Let's get back in the shop. Oop, first I gotta let the chickens out. Babies. Hello, babies. What are you doing? Hi. Come on. Come on. Got all y'all out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All of them came out. Oh, Lord. What's up, Baxter? How you doing today? Yeah? He's crowing. And my golden girls. Alright, we're back at it. This trimmer needs the works. We're going to put a fuel line, fuel filter, carburetor, or carburetor kit. I'm going ahead with the carburetor because the price difference is not really that much. A carburetor is $39.99. I always tell y'all, definitely get the OEM one. The aftermarkets do not work that well. But if I put a carburetor kit in it, that's $14.99 for the carburetor kit, plus an extra 15 bucks labor. It's just a few dollars difference for me to pop this thing on, and we know it's going to work. So, new carburetor. Hopefully I can find my air filter cover, fuel lines, fuel filter, spark plug. I'm going to get this going real quick. I've already made a video on it. If you need to know how to do this, I will leave a link right up above and in the description box below. All right, that took all of 5 minutes to repair. Let's see if she runs. All right, prime some gas into that new carburetor. Choke. Pops off. Next up on the bench, I have a customer Stihl FS45 curved shaft trimmer, and he said the head will not spin while running. I already did start it. It does run, even though it looks a little scary. Has cobwebs all over it, so I thought, you know, maybe it wasn't even going to run, but it does, surprisingly. He needs a bump knob, and when I go to turn this head, it is stuck like Chuck. So something is definitely not jiving here. Let's figure it out. So first thing we want to do is remove this head. They have issues. There's a bearing area back here that goes out on these a lot. I'm going to see if that's it first. So he's been, without running it, without a good bump knob on it, you can really mess the threads up on, oop, there goes his nut, on the end of your shaft here. Not something you want to do. Guess we could take the whole thing off here. Back end still looks good. Yeah, it's definitely this bearing area. So first thing I want to do is remove this shield so I can get back underneath it. Now I want to take this clip that's here on the end that holds the shield on with that screw. There is a little, I don't know if it's just a regular screw or set screw, I'll have to see, but take this one off. Well, I didn't even have to figure out what head it was. It just was so loose it unscrewed. Get the gunky out of there and figure it out. So now that that's loose, this just pops out. And these are what go bad all the time. Now, if you need to order this part, the part number is a 4144-640-5900. But this one happens to be on a personal friend's, so I'm doing something a little different. As you all know, I keep a ton of units for parts, and I just happen to have a burned up FS38, and although this is a different model, it has the same design, and its bearing is just fine. Just the engine shot. On top of that, it's got a good bump knob I can give them. Sweet. Ah, it is a T27. Sweet. Oh yeah, that one looks a lot nicer, and check it out. It spins perfectly. Nice. Now, when putting it back together, the only thing you really need to pay attention to is the threads on the bottom of it to line it up with the threads in the shaft. That way you can put your screw back in to mount it correctly. Now, to put it back together, you think, oh, I'm just going to slide it back in, but you can't. Now, because it's a curved shaft, you're going to look down here and you're going to see the end of your shaft is pushed towards one side. We're going to want to pull that out so we can line it up into the bearing housing. So what I'm going to do is remove the entire shaft section from the engine part. To do that, you have one center screw holding it into that screw goes straight through the end of the shaft. I'm just going to loosen these two right there. I don't know if I have to loosen. Yeah, I got to loosen these back two just a bit. And then we could slide the shaft right out. Now that way, it's not going to suck back up every time I try to put this thing back inside. So, got my new end here. Put it on. Line it up. Pop it in, and I can put it back together. All right, let's see if she turns. Pull. So So guys, thanks again for tuning into Chickanic. Hopefully something in this video saved you some time, money, and frustration in the future. If you find yourself coming back over and over again, think about hitting that subscribe button. It helps out the channel to make my videos shown to more people to save them time, money, and frustration. If you haven't found me at Facebook, find me at facebook.com/Chickanic. Find me on Instagram at TheRealChickanic, or find me at Chickanic.com, where you can get your own t-shirts, hoodies, and long sleeve shirts. Thanks guys, and have a great day.